And as we proceed, I would want to call upon Professor Wisdom Tete, President and Vice Chancellor of the Carleton University, Canada, if you're here. The topic is Building Sustainable Higher Education Data Management Systems for Informed Decision-Making. Put your hands together for Professor Wisdom Tete as he makes his way up here. May I ask that the room be silent for the session, please? Thank you very much.
I do. I thought you could. Good afternoon, folks. Hopefully we'll wrap up in the next half hour so folks can get on with the rest of the day. So I've got a couple of presenters that I'm going to call to come to the stage. The first is Dr. Trying to read my thing here. The first on the list is Professor Idris Al-Rai, the Deputy Executive Secretary of AAU. If you're here, sir, please come forward. And the second presenter is Dr. Daniel Omano, Education Sub-Saharan Africa. So please, let's get started. So whilst my colleagues are coming onto the stage, I just want to set the context for the conversation this afternoon. As you've heard over the course of the last couple of days, data is an important part of what is necessary to enable informed decision to be made within our sector, not just within individual universities, but across the sector. And it raised a number of questions that I think are worth considering, and I hope that our panelists will touch on based on a specific piece of work that was done with regard to African faculty in the East African region. But I think there are larger questions about data that we need to explore. And the first is about the capacity to generate relevant data and whether our institutions do have the infrastructure in place to enable us to do that. But there are also questions about if the capacity does exist, what are some of the issues with regard to the quality of the data that is generated? And is the integrity of that data such as would enable us to do the kinds of things that we're hoping to do with the data that is generated? And so that also then raises questions about the quality of the data, the comparability of the data, particularly when you're looking at institutions across the sector. And so if we're collaborating, are we measuring the same things? Are we saying the same things when we talk about student-staff ratio, for example? There are also questions about the governance of the data. Who owns the data? Who has access to the data? And those also raise other questions about who within particular institutions can access different kinds of data, how confident are partners when you're sharing data that the data will be protected in a way that reflects the particular regulations in every country. Because there are rules around privacy, there are rules about who has access to data, and particularly in the current context where people are storing data in the cloud, what are some of the regulations that inform these kinds of things? And of course, the risk with cybersecurity is one that is very much alive, that we're all dealing with. To what extent do we address those questions? And these are all important because, as we just heard in the last panel, when you're trying to reach out to partners and make the case that what you're doing is in fact meaningful and impactful, what kind of data are you going to put forward, and would you be able to present credible data that can inform your advocacy and other kinds of things that you use data for? And finally, I think the question about whether or not the data has the ability to be comparable across time. So you measure something today, you're looking at that tomorrow. To what extent do you make sure that what you're comparing across time is in fact meaningful in the way that you mean. So I'm hoping that whilst data tends to get people all kind of, oh my goodness, do I want to sit this? There are a lot of interesting questions that are raised by this engagement with data that I hope will keep you all excited and that you'd have questions for the panelists when we get there. So with that, I'm going to turn over the floor to our first speaker. Please introduce yourself and go ahead. I'm going to keep everybody to 10 minutes maximum. So you hear me telling you to stop. I'll give you a 1-minute warning, just to be fair. But I'm not being rude when I tell you to wrap up, okay?
Thank you very much.
All good?
So, thank you very much, Chair, for the introduction as well as for introducing the topic. Unfortunately, I'll be the only one presenting. Mr. Daniel Omonyo is a project manager, and he'll be there in case there are any questions. He'll be there defending me. He's the expert in the area. I don't know about you. I feel sleepy. Is anyone sleeping, feeling sleepy? Yes, there are those who feel sleepy. This is one, so at least a couple of people feel like the same way I do. It's late, so we're going to do this very quickly. And perhaps another question, any one of you the first time to be in Morocco? First time to be in Morocco? Yes, I love this place. I don't know about you. Do you love this place as well? It's a beautiful country. And I think Moroccans, you have to be proud of your country. This is one of the many countries I've been through, but I think it's a beautiful country, yeah. And it's beautiful people too. I mean, I've been to the center. I mean, it's like, I feel like home. I'm from Zanzibar and everything demonstrates narrow streets and everything, so I love the place. Anyone not from East Africa? Raise your hand, please. Not from East Africa. Okay, those who know Inter-University Council for East Africa, please put your hands down. So a few people don't know about the Inter-University Council for East Africa. So my name is Idris Rai. I'm the Deputy Executive Secretary of the Inter-University Council for East Africa. Now, before I continue with the presentation about data, I thought I should briefly explain about the Inter-University Council for East Africa, for those who don't know. Yes, the Inter-University Council for East Africa is an institution of East African community. It's a regional economic bloc in the East African region, which is mandated to advise the partner states on all higher education matters. So in a way, its role is to foster regional integration through higher education. The objective of East African community is to ultimately have a political regional integration. So the Inter-University Council of East African institution established to make that happen through the higher education. Unlike many higher education organizations, we are very unique in the sense that we are intergovernmental as well as member-based institution. And where we are a bit lucky, when members don't pay very well, there are governments who support. And sometimes when governments, some of them don't pay, you know, there are members who support. So we are a bit lucky, unlike many other university organizations in the world. So to advise partner states on all matters of higher education, we have our operational framework, and that is based on 5 pillars that include policy and advocacy. So we develop policies, guidelines, framework, regulations on matters of higher education. And we do implement regional international mobility programs and projects. We do build capacity. And the last one is to engage in projects and programs, but I left the 4th one, which is convening networks and communities. We do organize similar forums, similar conferences for members, but also for international partners as well as to attend. And what you see as a picture is our annual general conference and meeting next week. that is going to be in Kinshasa. I know it's a very short notice, but you are all welcome. I know some members here were going to be there together. And we had to postpone this. It was going to coincide with this big conference here, but we had to postpone this so that we can come and contribute and witness this great conference here. So this is one of the things we do as well. The East African community has been declared by the partner states presidents, the summit, as a common higher education area. For those who don't know about common higher education area, it's a group of countries close to each other which decide to harmonize their education systems. Now, in harmonizing education systems, you require common quality standards. You do require mutual recognition of qualification. That is, you have a harmonized qualification framework in order to enable and to make it easy for mobility of students and staff, but also for movement of skilled labor, ultimately for regional integration. So there are a number of higher education areas in the world. The most common one, very closely related to the East African community one, is European higher education area, with ultimate goal of regional integration. But there are others. There is one in South Asia, I think it's called CEMEA or KIMEA. There's another one in the Western, in the Southern America, I think it's called the Andean Region Higher Education Area. So with the declaration of common higher education area in the region, we have additional mandate of oversee the operationalization of common higher education area. And this is the map of East African community with 8 partner states. So with that, I think I've introduced very well the region as well as the Inter-University Council for East Africa. So what brought us here today is a project, I think introduced by the chair, that is called Demographics of African Faculty, particularly for East African community. Our partners implementing this project, including ESSA, which is Education Sub-Saharan Africa, based in Ghana, where Daniel is from, Association of African University, as well as PRB, which is Population Reference Bureau, based in New York. This project started as DAF, which is just Demography of Academic Faculty, based in Ghana. And initially it was funded by yes, not by Carnegie Mellon, I think it was by MasterCard, yes. And now, after MasterCard funded it, due to the structure of community, at East African community, particularly the existence of East African Inter-University Council for East Africa, this project was brought to East African community because we are responsible for higher education in that particular region. And we started in 2021 to 2023 what we call East Africa Community Phase 1. This is DAF Phase 1. And then in 2023, 2025, we have what we call DAF ESC Phase 2. Now today here we are about to talk largely about Phase 2 of this project. But before we go to Phase 2, the chair here said, and I think we've seen it in many other presenters, that higher education data matters. I think for many reasons, time is too short, but I think this is obvious. But in East African community, higher education is important because it well aligns with the ESC Vision 2050. But also higher education data is extremely important for national and institutional levels for various reasons, like policy and planning decisions, enabling transparency and accountability, and for other reasons. Just today, a friend of mine shared me a news, just now I'm sitting here, which says 10 universities in Kenya on hotspot for providing wrong data to the Ministry of Health for the funded internship of students. So that is data. You provide wrong data, inconsistent data. If there are policies, you commit some suicide, some crimes. If not, you get through. But it's important that you have data for transparency, accountability, supporting quality assurance, institutional improvement, as well as resilient and responsive higher education systems. So I talked about DAF ESC Phase 1. It was mainly focusing on estimating the current and future faculty demand in East African community, but also it aimed at documenting data availability within higher education institutions, as well as documenting the gaps. So we have a report that is available online. It's demographics for African faculty in the East African community. It's available. And the table there is just an example of the data that we collected, and that is relevant for United Republic of Tanzania. If you can see it, in the last two columns, we have baseline, then what we call additional faculty needed on student-teacher ratios as per the norms. 2021, for example, for discipline 1, discipline could be any discipline, could be engineering, medicine, social science, whatever. For discipline 1, we required by 2021 3,671 additional faculties that we did not have. If the situation continues the same, by 2030, we're going to require 11,362 academic staff for universities in there. You can see how informative data can be. We were lucky to get the data from Tanzania because the data is centralized, collected by Tanzania Commission for Universities. But there were a lot of challenges at the institutions in many other countries, which we were not able to collect appropriate data. Now, the documented challenges include fragmented data systems across higher education institutions, inconsistent classification and indicators, limited capacity for data governance and infrastructure, inadequate data quality assurance and security mechanisms, weak institutional data practices, varying data governance model, lack of comprehensive regional data architecture, and capacity constraints across higher education institutions and ministries of education. So what we realized is we wanted to collect data from the institutions, but actually there are problems, underlying problems within the institution themselves that inhibit obtaining the correct data. So the next phase of the project changed a little bit. Instead of going and collecting data that is not there, largely, now we had 4 objectives on the second phase. But the main one is to build a culture and advocating for effective data management in higher education institutions. The culture is important, that everybody should have a mind that thinks about the importance of data. We just don't lose data. We have it, we use it, we collect it, we store it, we share it. And another one is to develop harmonized regional higher education data management guidelines. Because of where we are overseeing all higher education institutions in the region. We can provide harmonized guidelines for the regional usage, and they could be used, adapted within the partner states in the East African community. And the other objective was to institutionalize data management systems to support evidence-based decisions, and finally, to build capacity of the institutions. So this is the approach of what we're doing. The project started, we are finishing the project in November. We started with benchmarking. We visited South Africa. They have a robust higher education management system. We learned from the ministry side, from the institutional side, private as well as public. They have very robust system there, but incentivized with funding mechanisms as well as laws. And the other one, what we did is to conduct a baseline study whereby we sent surveys to our member institutions. The report is available. As you can see the title there online. If you just search for baseline report on data collection and management practices in higher education institution in East Africa, you can get the report and see where we are within our higher education institution. The table there shows various sources of data in higher education institutions and the percentage of institutions that use that source as a source of data. I won't go into detail. And the other thing that we do is a regional and continental consultations on data management. For example, we do call for workshops in the region, webinars, continental. We've established with AAU a data working group that is looking at data particularly. We engage experts and certainly going to do capacity building finally. So we started developing and in the process of finalizing the harmonized regional guidelines for data management. And the coverage of these guidelines, not only at the institutional level, but it touches at the regional, where we stand as IUCEA, national, these are ministries and the commissions and councils for higher education, as well as institutions that are higher education institutions. Its objective is to establish standard collection methods and data governance at large. And the key components of these guidelines include data classification and standardization, collection tools and quality assurance, privacy and security standards, technical infrastructure, sharing, dissemination, and research data management, data dictionary that is defining indicators, and so on and so forth. The picture you see was a consultative meeting we had last week, just last week in Nairobi. So we are likely to have these guidelines approved in our executive committee in July, next week. And once approved, we send it to ESC governing instruments or organs. This is East African Community, these are Council of Ministers, Minister of Foreign Affairs have to approve it. Once they approve, partner states now, they take it and adapt it as per the Treaty of East African Community Establishment. So there are organs that enable implementation of the tools, the policies, and regulation that we develop at the East African Community region. How do we make it happen? Yeah, implementation, there should be alignment. The guidelines should be alignment with national systems, should be alignment with institutional policy frameworks. There should be ICT infrastructure and interoperability, and there should be monitoring and evaluation mechanisms. Policy advocacy should continue. It won't end with the guidelines only. So we'll continue engaging with ministries and regulatory bodies on importance of data management in higher education institutions. There needs to be an alignment with higher education strategies and regional frameworks, and there should be a promotion of adoption for data governance policies, and innovation in data systems as well as capacity building are important to ensure that the guidelines we're developing and the activity, the initiative that we are engaging on bear some fruits within the region. But one thing I wanted to mention on capacity building is development of communities of practice and peer learning. What we do at the Inter-University Council also is to build networks of practice, common communities of practice. We have a network on quality assurance. We have a network on research and regional integration. That's finished, yeah. And other networks. So we're going to establish a network of experts in data management from the institutions who will be meeting on a yearly basis for capacity building, but also for sharing experiences on data management within the institutions. And these are the expected outcomes. They are obvious: national awareness and enforcement on data management guidelines, a shift from ad hoc to structured data systems, adaptation of regional standards and strengthened institutional capacities, and the culture of data-informed decision-making in higher education institutions. And with that, I would like to thank you very much. Shukran, merci, and asanteni sana. Thank you. That is our new headquarters to be launched somewhere in September. You are welcome. Rashid, you came to visit us. Welcome again. We'll welcome you in a new building when you come. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay. So thank you for that overview. I know this is a very loaded topic, and so sorry if I made you go faster than you wanted to, but I think we just want to open it up for folks to. Is the mic not working? Okay. So we're going to open it up for any questions or comments folks might have for the team up here. Yes, Brock. SG, please go ahead. Can we get a mic down here, please?
It's more of a comment to note that one of the problems in Africa today is that our policymakers take decisions without data. And for us in higher education, it behoves on us to ensure that we have data. And I want to assure IUCA that AAU is available to continue to collaborate with you, not just on this project, but in other initiatives involving data. And beyond this one we are talking about now, connected with ASA, we are also involved in a data collaboration work with IUCA on the Aquaterri project. We will continue to work with you, and we'll see what we'll do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I know folks just want to move on, but I don't want to miss anyone. Okay.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Abdullahi Rubadu, NUC, Nigeria. I really feel that East Africa, you are lucky in a way, because when I looked at those 8 countries, and I see that you have a commonality. Some of the countries have English and French as official languages. So there is nothing like language barrier. Unlike in West Africa, where like Nigeria, bordered by 4 countries, all French speaking. So I remember when I was in AAU, Association of West African Universities, as the Secretary General, to come to a consensus, to understand ourselves at meetings even was a big problem. My question is, now that one of your objectives is for regional integration across these universities in these countries, in these 8 countries, do you have bodies like Association of Vice Chancellors of these universities or registrars, etc.? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. In addition to coming to languages, in addition to French and English, which still creates a little barrier there, considering other countries are more Francophonie than others, and others more Anglophonie than, like in Tanzania, you rarely find someone speaking French. We have a common language, a third language, which is Swahili. Now, you can find people speaking Swahili almost in all East African countries. This is a unifying language. Even in DRC, there are people who speak very fluent Swahili. I mean, not only Tanzania and Kenya and Uganda, but also other countries as well. So I think that is a more unifying language, and there are already efforts to recognize these 3 languages, already approved by the summit, that these 3 languages are formal or official languages within East African community. By the way, Swahili is also an African Union language as well. And I think efforts are there to make it United Nations language. Now, coming to the associations, yes, we do, but these are at the national level. So in each country, we have associations of vice chancellors, fora, called vice chancellor fora, association of private universities, associations of public universities, and association of vice chancellors for the whole country as well. But we don't have it at regional level. I think we can as well call perhaps the annual general meeting of IUCA, where members are vice chancellors from member institutions, is like an association of vice chancellors in the whole region. We could say so. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'm not seeing anyone. Okay. So in the absence of any further interventions, we're going to call this to a close. But I think that this leaves us with some really important, takeaways. It's not just churning the numbers. I think you go to fundamental questions about what is the purpose of those numbers, and to what extent do those numbers lead to decision outcomes that are efficacious, right? But there's also the regulatory environment that I think you touched on, and whether or not we have in place the robust infrastructure to make sure that data that is produced has the integrity, has the quality, and has the ability to traverse territory in ways that are helpful. And questions about whether or not we're willing to share. And I think that a lot of institutions tend to protect their data when, in fact, the openness to data, and you talked about accountability, not just with our partners, but also with the internal public. But it goes to questions around the credibility of the decisions that you make. So I think it behooves all of us to be much more open and embracing of sharing and producing data that is robust enough to withstand the decisions that flow from them. So I hope we've left you with some food for thought. And, sorry that we've kept you longer than you probably anticipated, but Hopefully this was something that was nourishing of your minds and allow you to go make some impact wherever you are. So to my panelists, thank you so much for the opportunity to hear what you've done and the work that you continue to do. And we wish you all the very best as you try to make the kind of impact that has a regional reach to it. Thanks, everyone, and have a good evening.
Distinguished guests, I think we can do a hand of applause for them. Yes. The idea earlier was to have done a wrap, but we realized there was one more thing that we couldn't have taken from you, a very important one that you all should give some little time to hear. So at this very moment, as we have the stakeholders, the chair and the presenter take a picture, and you've been seated for a while after the snack break, we wanted to just have a breather. So I want to call on the tech team. Tech team, is there any video, any trivia you want to show us? Whilst we get ready for the very last session of the day. Yes, the very last. Very important, right? Very, very important. This one is what we call the Bogota Dialogue. The Bogota Dialogue. And this will be chaired by Dr. Johanna Gerib, UNESCO Chair, holder, University of Manuba, and Vice President, International Association of Universities. The presenters, Dr. Nicholas Patrici of Obriel.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are not tired yet. Don't worry, we'll soon be leaving right now. This is the last one, and I can assure you that it will be very brief. All right? It's going to be very brief. My name is Abiodun Adebayo, a member of the board of AAU, the outgoing, and I'm the former Vice Chancellor of Covenant University. And it's my pleasure to chair this session, standing in for the earlier person who was mentioned. But we all know that partnership is key to any association and to any group. Without partnership, there is really nothing we really can do. This partnership involves sharing resources, knowledge, and expertise to enhance research, education, and other initiatives. They are established for various purposes, and one of such is maximizing research impact, streamlining administrative processes, and promoting open access to knowledge. There is an African adage that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. This is one of the reasons, among others, why AAU exists, so we can all come together and foster constructive partnership. Every meaningful partnership begins with constructive dialogue. The Bogota Dialogue is an inspiring framework for promoting constructive debate, inclusive cooperation, and shared learning in the face of today's challenges. The presentation will center on the third inter-regional dialogue on education and development between Latin America, Caribbean, Africa, and Europe. I have the honor today to have Dr. Nicholas Patrici, who is currently serving as the Director of Strategy and Development within the OBIL organization. And he oversees political functions and guiding organizations and strategies, growth and policy development. And he works on coordinating internal team. And just yesterday also, we saw the inspiring presentation from Chidozie Emmanuel Okonkwo of the African Union. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have the singular honor to invite Dr. Patrici to make his presentation. Dr. Patrick. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Now it works. Thank you very, very much for the introduction and for the space. I promise we are going to be very brief. We are not going to retain you more than 20 minutes, 15, if we can do it with my friend Emmanuel. The idea of this session is very concrete and actually is a good incentive for you to stay because it's an invitation to Bogota, Colombia. So it's always nice to go to Bogota, Colombia, to attend what we call the third interregional dialogue on education and development. The interregional dialogue of education on education and development is a joint initiative between OBREAL, the African Association of Universities, the African Union Commission, and the CELAC. The CELAC is the organization that puts all the governments of Latin America and the Caribbean together. What matters the most to me in order to save the time, is not to tell you, I'm going to skip the PowerPoint presentation. You can get it, you send an email and you get it, you will see. But what matters to me are two things. The first one is to invite you all to join us in Bogota. All the details are on the obreal.org website. But to invite you there, to invite you to attend, to invite you to come to Bogota is far away, but it is worth the logic. But what really matters to me is to have the chance in 10 minutes or 5 minutes to explain you, together with my friend and colleague Emmanuel, or Chigozie Emmanuel, from the African Union Commission, why we are doing this and why we are putting effort and time and a lot of resources trying to bring Africa, Latin America, and Europe together. I will put an example. If you want to fly from here to Bogota, the easiest way to do it is to go to Amsterdam and from Amsterdam to Bogota. But if you draw a direct line between the African coast and the Latin American coast, you will see that the distance is much shorter. Africa and Latin America share a lot of things. There is a lot of shared history, a lot of common history. A common history that has been mainly neglected from the Latin American side. But it is not only about sharing a common past in which connections between Africa and Latin America were much stronger. There was much more trade, not a good trade, but there were commercial routes established that were cancelled. Somehow these two continents has been divided, separated, put it in different boxes. But we share natural resources, we share similar challenges, we share opportunities of growth, we share quite a lot of things, and we share a lot of capacities. And if you are able to combine these two regions together, you will see that we also share quite a lot of population, quite a lot of young people. Africa has been, or has become also a priority for some Latin American countries. So back in 2022, in a conversation we had with the former commissioner, and with Emmanuel, and with Olusula, we started to see how little Latin American universities knew about the African higher education system. And we also discovered how little the African university system knew about Latin America, and how many opportunities were there. Opportunities based on interest, but also and mainly in a common and shared history that has to be recovered. So we decided to launch at the time in 2023 with the support of the African Union Commission and at the time the Argentinian government, the first dialogue that happened in Buenos Aires, Argentina in March 2023. It was the first time that the African Union Commissioner visited Latin America. It was the first time that the Secretary General of the AAU visited Latin America, but it was not only that. Sarua was there, IUCA was there, CAMES was there, and many others. But also many African governments went there. Last year, we repeated the exercise hosted by the AUC, the African Union Commission, in Addis Ababa, with more than 350 participants from Africa and from Latin America. And this year, we are doing this exercise in Bogota, and supported by the government of the Republic of Colombia and the African Union Commission. And the main idea is to start thinking in a process where if we share challenges, we can build up common solutions. And you build up common solutions by starting by knowing each other, by recognizing what it is needed here and there. I represent an European organization, so someone might ask why an European organization is trying to put together Africa and Latin America. Because we also believe that Europe is also a region that can share and learn from both Africa and Latin America. So it's not about setting another global dialogue. It's to set and to look for an interregional dialogue that shows and takes into consideration the specificities of each region, the needs of each region, the potential, the multiplicity of languages of each region, try to put them together and try to put people to work on building up common solutions for the development at the policy level and at the university level. So this, the new edition will happen in Bogota. I repeat this, all the information is on the website. I invite you all again to come and join us. You can look for me, for Emmanuel, you can go to our booth for more explanations. But I would like also to give the chance to Emmanuel to explain why, from the perspective of the African Union Commission, this is an important, relevant policy initiative, and also to give the African Union Commission the possibility to invite you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nico. I think you've pretty much covered all of the fundamental objective of the interregional dialogue. I think I'm just here to serve as your bodyguard then, more or less, because you've rightly touched on all fundamental points. But what to say that for us at the African Union Commission, I think this is one initiative that we are very proud of for obvious reasons. Many of our countries across the spectrum, be it in Africa or in Latin America and the Caribbean, share fundamentally historical connections, but also socioeconomic issues are more or less the same. So as you said, common solutions for shared challenges was the necessity behind why we initiated the policy dialogue ab initio. It has also metamorphosed into some concrete actions that is associated with the first two policy dialogue. We saw the collaboration from the colleagues in the Latin America region, between the colleagues in the Latin America region and our institutions in Africa. We saw the collaboration specifically with the Pan-African University and the colleagues from the university in Buenos Aires, across board on specific areas, content-related, development of MOOC courses and the likes. But also, I think the AAU, through that initiative also, I think, developed, if I'm not mistaken, an office in South America, right, drawing closer to the community in South America. But those are more or less the beauty of policy dialogues such as this one. It helps us appreciate the uniqueness of our various continents. and also points to the fact that we are actually much more closer than we would like to admit, right? We saw colleagues from the Caribbeans who more or less spoke like us in Buenos Aires. They understood the challenges we face in Africa. And it also helps to position us as the, if you may, what the West usually categorizes as third world, to begin to rethink how we address some of these challenges that plagues our societies. The next edition in Bogota promises to be very exciting. The thematic areas are such that are quite captivating. We'll be addressing issues like youth unemployment, women in sciences. We'll be addressing issues around STEM, if I'm not mistaken, and a number of contemporary issues that plagues our society today. And this is, of course, an open invitation to colleagues to join us in Bogota in November as we chart a path forward for the continent. I see Professor Olushola is also joining. But to also mention that this is an initiative that the African Union Commission, the former commissioner, Professor Mohamed Bellosin, still holds dearly, in the sense that when the program started in 2022 in Buenos Aires, okay. When the program started in Buenos Aires, he was able to assure of the AU's continuous commitment. That is, Obrel Global, AAU, and all other partners within this policy space can be rest assured of this continuous African Union support to the interregional dialogue. Thank you.
I want to throw an open invitation to all vice chancellors that we want you to be in Bogota. This is going to be a very important meeting. Last year, we had the second interregional conversation at Addis Ababa. The Minister of Education, Science, and Innovation from Bogota was there to invite all of us. Please, after this session, through Nico, we are going to circulate invitation to this Bogota meeting to all the vice chancellors. Please, we need you to be part of that delegation. The Latin Americans are willing to collaborate with universities in Africa. And I want to thank Nico for all you've been doing for this. Thank you very much. So after this meeting, let's get a special invitation letter to all our vice chancellors. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. That's the Secretary General. And please, a round of applause for these persons who have just made presentation. And as somebody's asking a question here, maybe we just take from the Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos, Professor Ogunshola.
Thank you very much. This is something I'm particularly interested in, but you didn't give us the dates. We need to block those dates now.
Now, yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that. The dates are from the 3rd to the 7th of November. This November, November 2025. From the 3rd to the 7th November 2025. All the information, I repeat, is available at obreal.org. The booth is outside. You can come by tomorrow and we'll give you all the information. 3rd, 7th November 2025 in Bogota, Colombia.
Thank you so very much, Nick. And I'm sure through the AAU platform, the information will also be circulated to all higher institutions.
Yes, Chair. I just had the last speaker said you introduced her as the Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos. That's my alma mater. I mean, as an Akokite, this is a special invitation to you, Madam VC.
Wow. I hope other Vice Chancellors are not jealous.